guys, what's up? Killjoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today I am pitting Jeepers Creepers from 2001 against its sequel, Jeepers Creepers 2 from 2003. Which of these epic horror movies is going to be the victor? Now before I get into that, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. And also don't forget to support me on Patreon, the link for that will be in the description below. You'll be able to see these videos a day early if you do so check that out. Alright, now let's get into it. Get over here! Now there's a few things I want to say about these movies before we really start getting into it. As I've talked about in other Jeepers Creepers videos, Victor Salva, who is the writer and director of both of these films, is a convicted pedophile, which is not good at all. So like, I don't want to glorify him by making this video at all. I want to say that like, I'm someone who personally believes in separating the art from the artist. Personally, I think we can enjoy these movies without glorifying Victor Salva as a human being. Like, these are good horror movies and I enjoy watching them. With that little disclaimer there, now let's talk a little bit about these movies. Jeepers Creepers is a 2001 horror film written and directed by Victor Salva. It stars Gina Phillips and Justin Long as Trish and Derry Jenner, siblings who are pursued by the Creeper, a demonic creature and mysterious serial killer portrayed by Jonathan Breck, who is basically just a Pennywise ripoff. I mean, not so much though, he does do a lot of other things which we're gonna get into in a sec here, but like the whole concept of him coming back every 23 years is very similar to Pennywise. The film is also named after the 1938 song that is also featured in this first film, and I don't believe it is in the second film. Jeepers Creepers 2 is a 2003 American horror monster film written and directed by Victor Salva, a sequel to the 2001 film and the second installment in the Jeepers Creepers film series. Which, let me tell you, this sequel stands up to its original. Some disagree, like it actually has a really low Rotten Tomatoes score opposed to the original film, but I think it's really good. Like, I think there's a lot of great scenes in this sequel, so this is going to be a very close matchup is my point. So with that, let's get into the good. Starting off with the original Jeepers Creepers, my first positive is that it has beautiful cinematography. One of the best moments in this entire film is when the Creeper picks up the cop's head that he just decapitated and starts like eating the eyeballs out of its head, and in the background you see a sign that says, "Tastes so good, yummy yummy," or it's something like that. I'm sure I'll play a little clip right here for you. There's also a lot of really disturbing and iconic scenes throughout this whole movie. You get to go into like the Creeper's lair at one point and you see all these like old bodies stitched together, and they're like, it kind of, how they describe it later in the film is that it's the Sistine Chapel but with like bodies all over the fucking walls. It's unbelievably disturbing, shot very well and professionally. Also, just another shot that's just coming to mind right now is when they're driving by and they see the Creeper throwing bodies down this like drainage pipe into his lair and he's just staring right at him. That's horrifying. That is a genuinely scary just shot that they didn't really do anything there. It's just like the Creeper staring right at the camera as it like drives by. Great stuff here. A lot of terrifying moments throughout this film. The Creeper! Even if he does borrow a lot of elements from Pennywise, he is one of the best horror villains from the early thousands by far. Jonathan Breck does a great job at portraying the Creeper in this film. Just like 10 out of 10 for character design, look, performance, everything about him. I really enjoy watching this villain, he is really genuinely scary. Just enough sprinkled in meta humor. You can really tell this movie came out 5 years after Scream, because there are just like a little bit, not too much like some of the other like Scream ripoffs. Not that this movie is a Scream ripoff by any means. This meta humor is just sprinkled in little doses. It's really only like 3 lines, but it works, and it elevates this film a lot, honestly, just because you added in like a couple little lines of dialogue. One of the better lines of dialogue here that includes meta humor is when Trish is talking to Derry, who wants to go into a drainage pipe where he just saw bodies get dumped into, and Trish is like, "This is the part in the horror movie where people get really mad at you for making a stupid decision." I'm paraphrasing there, but you get the point. And there's a few lines of that meta humor later on in the film, but it's just sprinkled in enough to work. Any more than that and it would be just too much. Scream 4, I'm looking at you, motherfucker. Characters I don't entirely hate. Okay, I hate Derry a little bit because the whole plot of this movie wouldn't work without his stupid decision at the beginning of this film, but I genuinely do like Trish and Derry and I enjoy hanging out with them throughout this film. This film's a lot different than your typical slasher. Like, you would usually follow like maybe like a group of teenagers or just like a group of people in general, and you kind of like get your main characters from them. But this film's a little different because Trish and Derry are always your main characters, but they end up just like going to different locations and meeting new people, and those people die while they get away, basically. And then there's the ending scene where the creeper like steals Derry and rips out his eyes, so like he obviously doesn't make it either. Something I caught while rewatching Jeepers Creepers 2, which it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, it has been a nostalgic week for me, is that when he throws that bone ninja star thing into the tires of the bus, you can actually see the belly button tattoo and Derry's belly button on the ninja star. That's like what it's made out of, which is so unbelievably messed up. Great connection to your original film there. Moving on to Jeepers Creepers 2, I would say this film has even better cinematography. The saturated shots of the corn where it's like it's super yellow and everything is just like the colors are maxed out basically. It's shot beautifully. I love this film. I have to give it the edge on the cinematography, even though both films do it really well. The opening scene. I literally just have in my notes WTF. That's it. I saw this film at a really early age, maybe like 6 years old. It came out in 2003, so I was like 5 when this came out, so I probably saw it the year later when it like came out on TV. I remember seeing that opening scene and just like pissing myself. I was so scared. I think it was the first time I saw like a little kid die in a horror film, and it messed me up. I thought like until then I thought only like adults could get killed in horror films, and then I saw that and it just like totally messed me up. That and Chucky? Oh, no way, man. I wasn't doing that as a kid. So there is that nostalgic plus for me on the second film specifically, so I obviously can't put that on this list, but it is a huge plus for me in favor of the second film. I actually really like the creeper's slight character shift in this film. See, it is kind of a negative because like in the first film, they're shooting the creeper with bullets and he's fine, like, and doesn't really get like damaged or anything, but then in the second film, they like jam a pole through his head and he rips off half of his head. There's hardly any consistency there, but it's like, whatever, who cares? It's a horror film, you know, we're just having fun with these movies at this point. What is really cool though about the creeper's character though is that like he plays a different version of the character. Like the creeper in the first film is kind of just like Jason with wings is like the best way to describe him, or like Michael Myers with wings. He doesn't really have emotion. He's essentially just like getting bodies to rebuild himself. He doesn't exactly talk throughout the movie, but he does have a lot more character to him. Like he'll play with his victims, so he'll play with his food essentially a little more in this second film than he does in the first one. One of the biggest scenes that's like it's an obvious character change for the creeper is when he's standing at the back of the bus, or I guess he's kind of like glued to he's like attached to the back of the bus and looking through the window. All of the teenagers on the bus are kind of just standing in a row and he's saying like move out of the way. He doesn't actually say that, but he like does this with his finger and like the teen moves. And then there's another one, he's like, no, move out of the way, you know, and then that one moves, and then finally it gets to one in the back and he's like, he starts sniffing like, oh, that's the one I want. That's so, it's pretty funny, like it's also silly, but it's also kind of messed up too. I like that little mix of tone in this film that we don't really get to see in the first movie. Some people probably don't like this. It's also very similar to when Pinhead got like a little silly and started like cracking quips in Hellraiser 3. Some people were like, what? He's not Freddy Krueger, like don't do that. But I don't mind that with Pinhead. Same thing with the creeper. I don't mind a slight character shift as long as it's not something too drastic. This is just like a little addition to make the character more interesting, and I'm totally fine with that. But now it's that time of the video where we have to move into the bad. Are y'all sick of me saying that like that yet? Because I'm just gonna keep doing it. The bad for Jeepers Creepers is that Derry is just kind of a fucking idiot. The whole plot of this movie doesn't make sense unless Derry makes that stupid decision where he climbs into a drainage pipe where he just saw dead bodies go into. It literally smells like dead bodies. There's rats crawling around it. Maybe this is terrible, but I call the police and I get the F out of there. No way am I checking it out and investigating. But then again, you can also put that negative on like every other horror slasher ever made, pretty much. So maybe I'm being a little tough on this movie, but I do hold it to a bit of a higher standard. It is up there. It's probably in like my top 15 horror movies ever. Moving on to Jeepers Creepers 2, the bad for that, I would say I don't really like the teen characters so much. I don't really like how they make that one character kind of like the main focus for the first half of the movie, and then he dies, and it's like, what? And also that character was like kind of racist earlier on, like he has a problem with one of the other dudes because he's black and he got more like time to play in the game that they're driving home from. I don't know, I personally don't care for him being the lead character. I'm happy that he died like halfway through. I kind of wish they focused on somebody else. We had a different lead character there. The counter to that though is that I really like Taggart and Taggart Jr. Really great characters there. Would love to see them come back for Jeepers Creepers 4, although it has been hinted at, so it is possible that they could return in this fourth film, because they're also involved with a cliffhanger at the end of this film that I hope is where the fourth film starts off. Fingers crossed, knocking on some wood. So am I handing out the ugly award? Nah, fam, I like both of these movies. So who is going to be the winner of this crazy battle of horror films? I'm giving it to the first one, reluctantly. The first one is objectively a better film, but I really like the second one. But what I'm realizing is I like the second one so much because of the nostalgia behind it. It's kind of my same thing with Scream 4. I really like Scream 4 because that was the first Scream movie I saw when I was a kid. It came out in 2011. That's kind of like when I was getting into horror films, and that's when my dad was also kind of getting back into horror films. Because like realistically, Scream 2 is a better movie than Scream 4. But I like Scream 4 because it's part of my childhood. That's why I like it so much. That's why I like Jeepers Creepers 2 so much. It's probably not as good as the original movie, but there's something about it, man. I love watching it. I could rewatch that film a million times is how I feel about it. Like I said though, objectively, Jeepers Creepers 1 is a slightly better film. I think its sequel is still really good though. It's a badass sequel, man. But that first film it's wonderful. It has so many great little moments in it and great characters too. That's probably the biggest plus that I have over the second one for the first film. The characters are all just so much better. But what do you think about these results? Do you agree with how things turned out, or do you think Jeepers Creepers 2 is the better film here? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching my new video on Jeepers Creepers versus Jeepers Creepers 2. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at KilljoyJake1, on Instagram at Killjoy_Jake, and on TikTok, if you look up Killjoy Jake, I'll come up, believe it or not. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link for that is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.